Welcome to the Archetypal Mosaic. This ultra special episode is about magic. Today we have an exclusive interview with Mark Wilson, who is the famed and respected magician of the Magic Castle and is credited as becoming the very first television magician. Welcome to the show, Mr. Wilson.
Well, thank you. Nice to be here.
I had the privilege of taking a class with you with one of my friends of the Magic Castle, and can you please describe what the Magic Castle is for the world that may not know, and what part you played in creating the beauty of it?
Well, thank you very much. Yes, the Magic Castle is a private club for magicians. It is also called the Academy of Magical Arts, which was a name that was attributed to it by the father of the Larson family, and he passed away. I never met him, but he passed away in the late 40s, 50s, yes, the late 50s. About 1953. So, anyway, it is a private club for magicians. In order to join the club, it's like middle expensive for private clubs. Around, I don't know what the cost is now, $500 or $600, I think, for a year. But you also should be a magic performer. Now, in order to join the castle, you have to do a magic performance and audition, if you will, for a group of other Magic Castle members, showing that you do know and can do some magic. It's a bit more complicated than that, but basically that's what it is, a private club for magicians.
It's a very beautiful place, great dinners, several theaters of shows. You were also the president there for several years. Can you describe your presidency there and what you gained from that?
Well, yes, I was president. I have been a member, of course, as a founding member back in the first days, which was 63? Yeah, 63 we opened. And there were about 25 of us founding members, all of whom were, or most of whom were professional magicians. And we had to put the opening off for a day in order to get the license for the bar for hard drinks. So that was not that that's very important to magicians, but that's what happened.
Now, the library there in the basement is very sacred and is for members only. Can you describe some of the rare texts in the library and perhaps your favorite text about magic?
Well, there are, at the moment, and I don't know how many it really is, except I know that it's well over 25,000 items, different books, and other items that are in our library. So it is a great reference, perhaps the largest library available in the world now, I think. And it's very important to the castle. But in order to go into the library and to use the contents of the library, you have to be a member and prove that you are a member in order to go into and look through those mainly magic books in the library. There are a few other books in there, sort of a general feel of magic, if you will, but the most important ones are the ones that you have to be a magician in order to look at. And we also have a number of antique books from the 17th, 18th century 15, 16, 17, because magic has always been an important part of our culture and the culture of most countries in the world.
That's a great point. Tell me, what does magic do? Does it give us a sense of a suspension of disbelief? Does it all bring us back to our child self? What does magic do for you and the people who come to you and share their experiences from your work?
Well, of course, we started our television show back in 1954 in Dallas, Texas. I graduated from Southern Methodist University. I married the lovely Nani Darnell, who was probably the best decision that I made in my entire career, was marrying the lovely Nani Darnell. And I had always wanted to have a television show on the air, because there were no television shows that had magic in them, except, of course, for the wonderful Ed Sullivan Show, which had the best acts, magic acts, in the world, and the best variety acts as well. But there was no magic series on the air that amounted to anything. So when I graduated, and I figured, well, now it's time for me to try and get on the air with a television show. There were 4 television stations in Dallas, the 3 network stations, CBS, NBC, and ABC, and 1 independent station. I called on all of those 4 stations, and they knew me pretty well because I had been head cheerleader for SMU back in the day, 1951, 52, etc. And the program directors at all of the stations said to me, "Mark, you're a nice guy, we like you. We know you do magic, but magic won't work on television. You see, everybody will think it's done with trick photography." Now, there's never been television before, they're saying to me, because it's a new kind of entertainment medium. And as you know, there are many trick photography things that can be done with television. Well, I didn't actually know that, except what I had seen that was on the air, and there wasn't that much on the air at that time. And I said, no, I don't think the audience watching our show, our magic show, will think it's trick photography, because we're going to tell them it is not trick photography. And Mikhail, through my entire career, I have never used trick photography except when it was for some kind of a special effect that a sponsor or somebody wanted on the air. Yeah, I have never used trick photography, and I think that's should be true of every magician. Almost all of them will follow the 3 rules that we set up for performing magic on television.
Wow.
1, never tell how a trick is done. 2, never use trick photography. And then 3, tell the audience that that's what you're doing, that you're not using trick photography of any kind. And it works. We've found in various surveys that have been made for our shows over the last 50 years or so that most people who watch the show will not think that it was done by trick photography, but will realize when they watch that what they're seeing is you'll pardon the phrase, real magic of magic, as they would see if it was live.
Beautiful. Tell me, Did he influence you? Did you have any connection to him or his family or his work?
No, I had none. He had passed away before I became. I think he passed away in 26 or 27 or 20, whatever. Mm-hmm. I was born in 1929. See, I'm 88 years old, and I'm happy to be here. But with 88 years old, I'm happy to be anywhere.
I think everybody's very happy that you're here because you've brought so much happiness to people. About your incredible television show, if you can describe, I know that Nani was your assistant and you had another gentleman who was part of the show. Can you describe how many seasons that was? What were some of your favorite episodes and where can people find that?
Sure. Well, we started off in Dallas, Texas, with a show that was on for 15 minutes twice a week, 6:45 to 7. 5:45. Nani is correcting me. 5:45 to 6 in Dallas. Now those shows are really all gone because there was no videotape at that time. There was no way really to record a television show except with a movie camera. So.
And that was just Mark and I, and we had an announcer on the show, the regular TV studio announcer.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Nani Darnell is joining the conversation. Welcome, Nani.
Oh, hello there.
She is indeed, and I'm so glad she's here, because she's helping me a lot.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful to have both of you on the show.
Well, and in regard to television shows, we were on first in Dallas. That show was a success, and then I sold the show to a sponsor in San Antonio, Waco, and Houston. Each week, that is, we would have to drive to the city where we were presenting the show. We would drive to, let's say, the main three at the end were Houston, San Antonio, and Dallas.
But they were all live because there was no videotaping or anything like that at that time.
So you had to go there to do the show with a new director, new guy playing the organ, which was part of our shows, and it was working well. So we had not made any money to speak of from the shows. But when we were on in 3 markets, we were making a little, and we were thinking, now it's time to go to a bigger market, which is where there was additional money. So that would mean New York, Los Angeles, or Chicago. We finally decided that the best place of all, after making several calls, was in Los Angeles. And that's when I sold the show to Kellogg's. This is a long
All of this took a lot of years. We were on in the different cities in Texas for several years before we even started trying to sell the show, and then sold it. Since we started in 54, and then we went on the air with our network show in 1960.
Wow.
So.
Let me ask you one question. What made you come up with the name Allakazam, and what does Alakazam mean?
Okay. When we sold the show the first time, the network show, there's a lot of more story that goes in between here, but we sold the network show to Kellogg's through the Leo Burnett Advertising Agency out of Chicago. And after I sold the show to the agency, before we went on the air, I was asked by the agency, by one of the executives in the agency, if we could change the name of the show to Alakazam, because they had a new cereal coming out next year, which was called All Stars. No? Yeah. Kellogg's All Stars. Alakazam What a Wonderful Wizard I Am, Kellogg's All-Stars.
That was the theme song.
You buy the stars, the holes are free. So that's where Alakazam came from in our show.
And a capital K.
With a capital K in the middle, yeah.
And where does the term come from? Aside from the advertising agency, do you know the root of the term? What does it mean?
No, it's kind of a magical word. There's abracadabra, etc. And Alakazam was primarily used for the Kellogg's All-Stars, and that's where it really came from.
Wonderful.
Was
There was a song that had Allakazam in it, a song about magic
and I
years
was
ago.
singing it.
That's cool. Now tell me about your book. Your book called Mark Wilson's Complete Course in Magic, which is also available autographed at this point on markwilsonmagic.com, has sold over 800,000 copies worldwide. This is one of the very top, or the top, book in magic instruction of all time. Tell us about the success of the book and the classes that you do with the book.
Okay, I wrote the book back in the early 1970s, and it was first published in 1975. And we put it on the market. We printed 5,000 books. They were moderately successful. And then I was, you see, as you know, we have performed all over the world, Nani and I, in many, many countries. And so I was flying back from Hong Kong, waiting in line at the airport, and a fellow from another line came over and said, "Are you Mark Wilson?" And I said, "Yes." He said, well, I'd like to publish your book. Now, that was after the book had been published for about a year and a half. And I said, well, I don't know whether I want to do that or not. So I came back, I flew back to Los Angeles, met with some people here, decided maybe these people could do it because they seemed to be well into the publishing business. And I turned the book over to them, and they published it. And it's probably not just 800,000. I think that's older footage that you're...
That's old copy that you're reading.
Yeah. It's probably, I think, more like 1 million now. And it's been published in 6 languages.
Italian, Spanish,
English, French,
Russian, Chinese.
Chinese, yeah. So
I don't know how many that is.
yeah.
I can read 2 of those languages.
Good for you.
Yeah, good for you.
Tell me,
Wow.
Nani, if you can share with us your incredible adventures around the world, what were some of the highlights performing in different countries, and what kind of responses did you get from the audiences?
Magic is enjoyed all over the world. Everywhere you go, they enjoy magic.
It really is international.
And the Asian countries seem to have a higher, and I wouldn't say higher enjoyment, but they have more people who are anxious to get into magic than some of the other countries. China we went there first because Mark introduced magic to the Chinese people in Washington, D.C.
I called on the embassy, which was not the embassy when I started calling.
That was before they were recognized by America, by the United States.
Mm-hmm.
But then the mission, which was actually an old hotel in Washington, D.C., was turned into the embassy. And then they invited us to bring a show to China. So
after Mark had been going to the embassy and visiting with them for about 3 years.
Yep.
Wow.
And it was an amazing experience. It was one of the most unusual experiences we ever had at performing, because we were the first non-Chinese people.
Yeah.
We were the first
First
Western people to perform for the Chinese people in the how many years?
32 years.
Right.
Since Mao had taken over and thrown Chiang Kai-shek out.
So none of the Chinese people had seen anyone. They'd not seen anyone from Japan, Germany, England, Russia, you name it, any other country. We were the first other people they had seen, these people. And they were just wonderful to us and wonderful to perform for.
And so after getting the invitation from the Chinese, that's when I put the show together. And we made it a big illusion show. We took 20 people on our staff and 5,000 pounds of props to China. And many things happened in China. We were there for 3 weeks on that first trip. We've been back a number of times. We made many friends in China because they were very nice people.
And when we were there, we performed in theaters, in communes, on trains, in factories, you name it. We performed anywhere they asked us to go perform for them. We did it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It was wonderful.
Tell me, magic is kind of like music. People don't need to understand the words. They can feel it. They can enjoy the laughter. It's universal.
Yes, that's true.
What kind of reactions, responses, specifically, like when you receive fan mail or people go backstage after a show, what do they say? Like, you brighten up my day, you made me feel like a child again. What kind of things do they say to you?
Yeah, they say all those things. And we're happy to hear that. And interestingly, people in foreign countries say wonderful things as well when they can talk to us, when they have the ability to talk to us.
When they speak English.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Because we don't speak most of the other languages.
Your incredible television series, The Magic Land of Alakazam, is actually available on your website, markwilsonmagic.com, in several volumes. Can you describe these incredible volumes that you've created on DVD?
Yeah, we did the Magic Land of Alakazam starting in, 1960.
October 1960.
And we did over a 5-year period, 3 years on...
2 years on...
2 years on CBS.
3 on ABC.
And we went off of CBS one Saturday and went on ABC the next Saturday. Not too many shows do that. And we produced about, I think, a total of 99 different half-hour Magic Land of Alakazam shows. And those are the ones that we are selling on our website.
There are 50 of the shows that are actually being sold on the website that we have transferred to DVD.
Mm-hmm. Now, as we're coming to a conclusion of this exclusive interview, please tell us about the Magic Castle classes that you do. I remember being in one of them and I really enjoyed it.
Well, we started teaching magic at the Magic Castle about 20 years ago. And the classes are held 2 or 3 a week, a couple of hours in each class. We teach all kinds of magic, but primarily we teach close-up magic rather than the illusions. Now, we have performed, I think Nani Darnell has floated in the air and been in more illusions than any other beautiful blonde assistant in the history of the world. Because when you go on television, it's different than when you do anything else. When you're an illusionist like Blackstone, Houdini, Thurston, any of those magicians trooped an illusion show, and they could do the same show over and over again, because if they went into one city, they would work for a few days, a week, a month, a year in that city, depending on the size of the city and the response that they got. but they would do the same show over and over again. What we found out, and it was certainly true, that in a television show, you can't do the same thing over and over. You've got to have a new show next week. And none of these men who are the people that we really appreciate and who advanced magic did not do the same show over and over again.
Wonderful. And tell me, what is in the future for you, Mark? You're still teaching? Are you writing anything new?
Not at the moment, no. I'm not writing anything new, but I eventually will, and a lot of this will be in there.
Wonderful. There's got to be a biography or an autobiography about you someday.
Well, I hope so. And I hope I'm the one that writes it.
Exactly, if it's an autobiography. Now, I really appreciate you being on the show, both you and Nani. It was a pleasure to take classes with you at the Magic Castle. It's a pleasure to speak to you now. For those interested in the DVDs, the signed books, which are available at the time of this recording, go to markwilsonmagic.com. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience, Mark?
No, they can go to the Magic Castle as well. That is on their computer. Now, they can't get into the Magic Castle unless they have a special invitation or unless they are a magician. So that's a good thing to do, to look at what they can find out about the Magic Castle on the computer, and of course to visit our website. So thank you for a very nice interview, and as you have seen, our batteries and my battery is running out, so I'm going to have to say goodbye.
Thank you so much, Mark. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.